In the past couple of years, I've managed to design a life of complete freedom on my own terms through my digital marketing agency. And now, in this video, I am going to show you how to do the exact same thing. Specifically, how to get clients for your own marketing agency. Let's get right on into it. Now, this video is broken down into three main parts. The first part of this video is called the 4 Commandments of Outreach. And in this part of the video, we are going to cover 4 extremely important things to keep in mind as you are performing outreach in order to bring in new clients for your agency. Now, the second part of the video is called 4 Powerful Strategies for Getting Clients. And in that part of the video, we are going to cover 4 different platforms that you can use in order to pull in clients for your agency. And I'm also going to provide specific tips and strategies for using each of those 4 different platforms. And the final part of the video is called 1 Secret to Closing the Sale. And this is for when you actually have some potential customers on board and it's time for the sales call. And this is when a lot of newcomers to the digital marketing space get really nervous because they don't know what to say to close the sale. So in this part of the video, we're going to really simplify things down to the core essentials, the core basics, and really give you the number 1 secret for closing that sale effectively every single time. So those are the 3 parts of this video, and I am sure you're going to get some amazing value out of it. But before we even begin this video, I want to just remind you that if you have not watched the first part of this How to Start Your Digital Marketing Agency series, then you want to start with those videos right up there. In the first video, we explained what a digital marketing agency is. In the second video, we talked about how to start your marketing agency. In the previous video before this one, we talked about how to choose a perfect niche for your agency. And now that brings us to this current video, which is how to get clients. But anyways, if you haven't watched those videos, start with those. But let's get right on into the current video, how to get your clients. Let's do it. All right, guys. So like I said, the first part of this video is called the 4 Commandments of Outreach. And these are 4 absolutely essential laws that you have to keep in mind as you are going through the process of trying to pull in new clients for your agency. And if I had known these laws earlier in my time as a digital marketing agency owner, I literally would have cut years off of my growth process. So anyways, let's get into the first commandment, which is more outreach equals more income. And this is a very, very, very simple law, but people oftentimes overlook it. And they may not consciously overlook it, but their actions show what they truly believe. And the fact of the matter is that most people spend most of their time in their agency doing meaningless tasks that aren't truly moving their business forward and increasing their income. And most agency owners only spend about an hour or 2 on outreach per week at best. So again, the point of this law is that the more business owners that you reach out to try to pitch your services, that directly correlates to your income. If you spend an hour every week doing outreach, then you will have an hour of outreach per week type of income. If you spend 10 hours a week on outreach, you're going to have a 10 hours per week type of income. The more outreach you perform every single week, then the more that will show up in your income. So if you want to increase your income, the simplest thing to do is to increase your outreach. Law number 2, you will get denied. You need to get used to that. You need to make that a natural feeling for you because you are going to constantly get rejected by business owners. It is a fact of life as an agency owner. So whether you're doing cold emailing or cold calling or meeting people in face-to-face conversations, no matter how you go about it, you are going to get rejected. You are going to get ignored. You need to become accustomed to that feeling because that is what's going to push your business forward. All the no's that you get are pushing you closer to the eventual yes. And also keep in mind that your first client is going to be the hardest. And as you're going through this process of constantly getting denied by business owner after business owner after business owner, that's again pushing you closer to that eventual yes. And I'm telling you right now that as you are getting started, before you get your first client, it is going to get tough and you are going to want to quit, especially as you're getting denied time and time again. But just keep pushing through, because every successful agency owner went through that same exact process. So keep pushing through, and as soon as you get that first client, it will become easier, and you will have that proof of concept that this does work. Let's move on to law number 3, which is that at the beginning of your time as an agency owner, you should not be focused on income. You need to be focused on initial proof of concept. Now, what do I mean by that? So like I said a second ago, this entire process becomes easier after you get your first client. And that's because, first of all, you will begin to see that this process works. But second of all, once you have that first client and you produce some results for them, you can begin using them as a case study to bring in new clients. So your goal initially should not be to charge each client, $5K a month. That's not the goal. The goal is to get them on for a small retainer fee, just to have them as a client, and then to provide amazing results for them, so that not only do you have a case study, but you also have the foundation cemented in your mind that you can actually make a business out of this. Because until you actually have your first dollar from a client, then it's not going to feel real to you. So again, the goal initially is not to have high income velocity. It's just to get that initial proof of concept for both yourself and to share that proof of concept with other business owners who can become your clients. Let's move on to law number 4, which is to take a multi-angle approach. Now, what do I mean when I say to take a multi-angle approach? Well, when you're doing outreach, there are so many different angles and methods and platforms that you can use to try to reach your potential customers. And the thing about it is that there's no single platform or no single outreach method that is most effective. They all have their own use, and they all appeal to specific types of customers. So instead of just focusing on one of them, I highly suggest that you use as many of them as possible as you're initially getting started. So don't just reach out to your potential customers through email. Of course, you should email them, but you should also shoot them a text message and give them a phone call, and find them on Facebook, and find every single avenue that you have to reach them and use every single one of those, because business owners don't always check each method. They have a lot of things going on in their lives. So if you can hit them from multiple angles at once, that gives you all the more likelihood of actually being discovered and having that turn into an appointment and eventually a client. But anyways, those are the 4 laws of outreach. And you have to keep those in mind as you are going about the process of trying to find new clients, because if you're not keeping those in mind, then you're not going to have the right foundation for everything else that comes after this. Okay, so now let's move on to the 4 different strategies that you can use to get more clients for your agency right now. Number 1, email. Number 2, cold calling. Number 3, using social media. And number 4, going face to face. And we will cover each of those in more detail. But again, that's email, cold calling, face to face, and social media. All right, guys. So outreach method number 1 is email. And overall, the entire process of trying to get clients through email simply consists of, first of all, creating a list of potential prospects and getting any relevant information like their emails, their business names, their phone numbers, and anything else that would be relevant to an email. After you have a list of emails of potential prospects, you just create an email message that is designed to convince them to get on a call with you, where you can tell them more about your specific service. And after you've created that email, you send it out to them and you wait for them to respond. And if you get no responses, then you follow up about 2 to 3 times on each of those emails, just to stay at the top of their minds and to maximize your chances of getting some type of response. And at the end of each of those emails, you want to have a link or some type of appointment system where they can actually set up a time to have a phone call with you. And we're going to talk more about what you should cover on that phone call at the end of this video. But overall, that is the high level picture of what the email outreach process looks like. First, you build a list of potential clients. Then you create an email that is tailored to get them to set up a phone call appointment with you. And after that, you continue following up with each of those email recipients at least 2 to 4 times. And from that, the goal is to funnel them into a phone call so that you can tell them more about your services. Okay, so now let's talk about method number 2 of outreach, which is using social media. And when it comes to social media, there are a bunch of different platforms that you could use, but the main ones that we're going to be focusing on are LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So when it comes to social media, there are 2 main ways to focus on bringing in new clients. And that is by number 1, sending them DMs, aka direct messages. And number 2, by adding value within different groups on those social media platforms. So let's first talk about direct messaging. So when it comes to direct messaging, the overall goal is number 1, to find people who are within your target market base. But then number 2, to start conversations with them that will make them consider how much they really might need your service. So what that might look like is, for example, when I was reaching out to wedding photographers as my client base in the past, what I would do is I would find them on Instagram. And from that point, I would ask them specific questions that were designed to figure out how much capacity they had to take on new clients and if they could actually afford a marketing service. So in my case, I usually started that conversation by letting them know how much I loved their photography work. And from that point, I might ask them follow-up questions like, hey, how much space do you have in your schedule for new wedding appointments? And how many weddings do you usually do per month? And that usually would give me a better idea of how busy they are. And it would also give me some idea of whether or not they could afford marketing services. So again, the goal when it comes to DMing is to strike up a conversation first and foremost, and then to pose specific questions that are designed to allow you to see if they need and can afford marketing services, but also just to get that idea moving in their mind as well. Like, maybe this guy can help me. And once you've got them to that point where they're actually intrigued by what you're saying, then you move that conversation over into a phone call and get more detailed with everything and let them know what you can do for them. So let's move on to the second side of social media, which is targeting different groups within your niche. And the goal here is simply to join different groups that are based around your specific niche that you're targeting. So for example, if your target client base is roofers, then you want to join roofing groups all across Facebook. And if your target market is wedding photographers, then you join wedding photography groups. If your target market is electricians, then you join electricians groups. Whatever your target market is, join groups that are based around those specific services. And after you've done that, you do not want to post about your service. You do not. That is the quickest way to get kicked out of the group and to instantly be seen as a spammer. Instead, what you want to do is go into these groups and add genuine value on a consistent basis. So you want to see what questions they're posting and respond to those questions in a valuable way. You want to see what problems they're having and try to help them with those problems. You basically want to join these groups and position yourself as an expert over time. And this is not going to happen immediately, but when people come into these groups and they have questions or they have issues and they post about them and see that you always respond to these questions and these comments, that will make them be like, who is this guy? He clearly knows what he's talking about. So from there, their curiosity will be piqued. And at that point, this is where you hook them and reel them in. So you need to set up your Facebook profile in such a way that it encourages them to see you as an expert and to hop on a phone call with you. So you want to have a professional picture and you want to have a headline that highlights the specific service and the specific niche that you help with. So for example, if you are a roofing marketing specialist, then your Facebook bio should say something like, hey, I help roofers to increase their leads by 27 appointments per month on average. Book a call right here. Again, that's just off the top of my head, but it should be something along those lines that encourages them to book a phone call with you. And through the process of constantly providing value inside of these Facebook groups and those people then having a curiosity about what you provide, that will lead them to click on your profile and set up appointments through that profile. And I have seen many different agency owners get clients through this method. So again, when it comes to Facebook groups, do not spam, actually provide real value, and then that will lead to clients coming your way. Okay guys, so the third method of outreach is to cold call your potential client base. And the thing here that I have always noticed is that most agency owners absolutely hate to cold call. It either makes them feel uncomfortable or it makes them feel like they're just spamming somebody. Everyone tends to have a strong aversion to cold calling. And on some level, I understand that, because when I first got started in the agency space, I felt the same exact way. But the funny thing is, I got most of my initial clients through cold calling. That is how I grew my business initially. So anyone who says that cold calling does not work or that it's ineffective, they're wrong. It's not the most efficient method in the world, but when you do it correctly, you can get instant feedback on whether or not your approach is working, and you can have instant access to your target clients rather than waiting hours around for them to respond to your emails or days to respond to DMs. Or it's a very instantaneous form of feedback on how your process is working and how your offer is working. So cold calling also depends on which specific niche that you're in, because if your niche tends to have a gatekeeper who answers the phone, that will make it much more difficult to get many sales through cold calling. It's still possible, because the niches that I was in when I got started, they all had gatekeepers, but I still managed to get sales through them. But again, it's much easier if there's no gatekeeper than if there is a gatekeeper and you have to get through them to reach the business owner. So overall, the first step when you cold call is to gain enough trust so that they do not hang up on you. Because if you come across like a spammer right away and you just try to go straight to the pitch, they are going to hang up 95% of the time. So what you want to instead do is try to build up some initial trust and goodwill. And how I typically do that is by starting off the conversation by asking them a few questions. For example, if it's a plumber, I might ask them, hey, do you serve this city or do you only serve this city? Or I might ask them, hey, do you provide XYZ service? And at that point, they no longer think that you're a spammer, so they give you the time of day to actually hear you out, and they'll respond to your questions. And after you've asked them a question or two and built up that initial trust, then you want to let them know what you do and why you're calling them. So at that point, tell them about your service and try to lead them into a longer call sometime down the future if they actually want to hear more about it. So at that point in time, you let them know that you can provide value to their business, and you try to set up a call for some time in the future for you to learn more about them and for them to learn more about you. And from there, you get their information, you set up a time in the future to have that phone call, and you end that call and keep on moving on. Now, what you need to keep in mind with cold calling is that you are going to get shot down time and time again. Now, what you need to realize with cold calling is that you are going to get shot down time and time again. You need to get used to that feeling, because every time that happens, you are moving closer to your goals. Every no gets you closer to the yes, like I've said many times before. Each no just moves you one step closer to that eventual yes. But anyways, that is the overall process for cold calling. Let's move on to the next thing, which is face-to-face interactions. All right, guys, so now we're going to talk about the fourth method of outreach, which is through face-to-face conversations. And I know some agency owners who hate face-to-face interactions, and I know other agency owners who absolutely swear by them. So it's all about what type of person you are. Maybe you prefer social media, maybe you prefer face-to-face interactions, but regardless, there is definitely some value to be had in the face-to-face interaction space. So let's get right on into it. So one of the best ways to go about face-to-face outreach is by going to your local groups that focus on referrals. Like, these are groups that are specifically tailored for businesses that are trying to help other businesses to grow. So typically at these groups, they try to keep everyone working with other people of those same groups. The entire purpose of these business groups is to encourage business to business referrals. So when you come into a BNI group as a marketing person and you show that you actually have some value and some skills, then you can quickly turn that into not just one new client, but you can potentially become a client for many of the people who come to that same BNI group. And I actually have a couple of different agency friends who have made BNI groups their bread and butter in terms of outreach. That's how they've gotten many of their clients. Aside from that, when it comes to the whole face-to-face thing, you can simply walk around your neighborhood and look for roofers, look for lawn care specialists. These guys are usually out and about, just walking around and working on different things. And if you can just go talk to one of them while they're out at a house around your neighborhood, that usually will build a bit more trust than randomly reaching out to them through email or through a phone. So if you come up to them as a person who lives in their local space and you're like, hey, I provide marketing services for businesses in your niche. I would love to have a conversation with you in the future. Are you open to that? You'll be much more likely to get a yes that way compared to cold calling them or cold emailing them. So if your neighborhood is pretty busy, this won't be your main method of getting clients, obviously, but if you see a roofer that's working on something across the street or a lawn care specialist across the street, just walk out there, talk to them, have a conversation. And through the same idea, if you are doing work at your own house and you have someone that's coming in to work on something like an interior specialist or a lawn care person, talk to them, offer your services. You already are paying for them to be there and to work on your projects. So why not pitch your services while they're already there? You have full access to them. And again, this probably won't be the bread and butter method that you use to get new clients for your agency. But if you're already doing services around your home, or you already see a lawn care specialist working on your neighbor's lawn, then just go talk to them. Don't be afraid to talk to people. That's how you grow your agency. You have to talk to people. Okay? All right. And let's move on to the last part of face-to-face interactions, which is going to industry groups. Now, when it comes to industry groups, that's essentially a group based around a specific niche, and they typically meet either quarterly or annually. And these groups are basically a massive meeting of all of the business owners within that space, all at one place at a conference. And they set up booths and they meet each other and they have keynote presentations and things along that sort. But what you want to do is you want to go to these industry associations and you want to get a booth set up for your agency. Because when they see you there and they see your booth and they talk to you face to face, that builds instant trust. And that allows you to get past all of the other people who seem to be spamming these businesses. Because when they get an email, that is very easy for them to ignore. When they get a cold call, that is very easy for them to ignore. But when they see you face to face and they see you at this industry group that they already have trust for, that trust carries over to you as well. They see you as a legitimate authority within that specific niche, and they will be much more likely to work with you. So if you can reach out to these industry associations within your niche and get a booth set up at these industry conferences, that can be an amazing way to get new clients for your agency. But anyways, those are the 4 main strategies for outreach. Let's move on and talk about how to absolutely dominate the sales process. So this is what you've been waiting for. Now it is time to talk about the actual sales process. And this is so important because even if you can get a billion different prospects to be interested in having a conversation with you, if you can't properly close them, then everything else will fall apart. And a lot of new agency owners actually get really nervous when it comes to the sales process because they don't know what to do and how to properly close. And there's one very subtle mindset trick. And that mindset shift is so simple and it's not complicated, but when you have that shift, everything else becomes much more smooth and seamless. And this is the shift. You need to focus less on trying to sell your service and more on identifying exactly why they would benefit from working with you. So what that means is that you need to focus on questioning them in such a way so that you can identify what their goals are in terms of their business. And then from that point, you have found out what they want. And your only objective at that point is to then highlight what they want and highlight how you can move them closer to what they want. That is all that matters in the sales meeting. The only objective of the sales call is to find out what they want and then to highlight how working with you will help them to move closer to what they want. That is the only goal. So you don't need to worry about impressing them with some crazy resume or with all of your past achievements. Your main focus should be on questioning them and getting to know them better. You need to focus less on selling and more on discovering what they are going through and what their problems are and who they are and what their business is about. Your goal is to understand them. So when you take the focus off of yourself and take the focus off of impressing them and take the focus off of selling and instead shift your focus to just genuinely trying to find out more about their situation to diagnose what the issue is and how you can help. If you can help, then that takes a lot of pressure off of you to perform a certain type of way. And I used to be so nervous before sales calls because I felt like I had to be so charismatic and so many different things. But as soon as I shifted the focus from trying to be a certain type of character to instead focusing on how I can help them and just learning more about their situation, that made the entire process not only less stressful for me, but it also made my close rate increase so drastically. Because when the customers can see that you genuinely care about the situation and that you're actually providing a tailored approach that is customized to their specific needs, they will be so much more likely to work with you. So again, the main thing to keep in mind when it comes to sales is that you are not selling. You are simply trying to discover what their issue is and then present a solution for that issue. That is the key to effective selling. That is the only thing that matters. Okay guys, so that is the video for today, and I truly hope that you got some amazing value out of it. But please keep in mind, you need to actually go apply this stuff. Information without application is absolutely worthless. So be sure to actually take action based off of what you learned here. And if you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment down below and be sure to smash that like button. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope that you got some amazing value. And if you want more similar content, be sure to subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next video. And always remember that consistency creates kings. And if you are not consistent in the areas of your life that matter the most to you, then you are not going to design the life that you want to be living. But anyways, I will see you on the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace out.